For the first minute, just imagine standing on a rocky hillside, your hands numb from the cold and the wind cutting right through your cloak. Wood is damp, sparks from flint are fleeting, and honestly, your survival depends on warmth and cooking. In these moments, ordinary tinder often fails. Dry grass is soaked, bark resists ignition, and even seasoned shavings, well, they struggle to catch. Yet ancient societies discovered a special oil-rich material that ignites instantly, turning a single spark into a roaring flame in just a few seconds. This tinder wasn't merely convenient, it was life-saving. Its effectiveness made it a closely guarded secret in many cultures, passed down from generation to generation. Understanding its composition and use not only teaches us about ancient ingenuity, but also provides survivalists today with a dependable fire-starting tool that works when all else fails. The ancient oil-rich tinder was developed to solve the problem of unreliable fire starting in harsh environments. Across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, humans faced climates where fire was absolutely essential for warmth, cooking, and protection. Yet traditional dry tinder was often, well, unreliable. In damp forests, cold mountains and windy plains, sparks from flint could go out before igniting anything. Ancient engineers realized that impregnating fibrous materials with naturally flammable oils dramatically increased reliability. Plant fibers like cattail fluff, fine moss or dried fungus were saturated with oils extracted from nuts, seeds or even animal fat. The combination of porous structure and oil content meant that a single spark was sufficient to start combustion, even under adverse conditions. This innovation was more than just convenience. It was survival technology. In cold or wet climates, a fire that failed to ignite could mean frostbite, or, in the worst case, death. The oil-rich tinder allowed societies to venture further into harsh environments, conduct night operations, and store emergency fire sources that could be counted on to work when needed. The composition of oil-rich tinder allowed it to ignite instantly and burn steadily. The effectiveness of this tinder relied on three key factors: fiber structure, oil content, and the preparation method. Fibers needed to be dry, airy and finely separated so that oxygen could circulate freely. Oils provided a combustible medium that caught sparks immediately, while also sustaining the flame long enough to light kindling or larger fuel. Preparation was simple in concept but precise in execution. Fibers were cleaned of excess moisture, thoroughly mixed with oil, and stored in a dry container. Some cultures, wrapped tinder in thin bark leaves, or sometimes even small animal skins to protect it from dampness without smothering the fibers. Historical texts from Europe, particularly during the Viking and medieval periods, describe fatwood tinder derived from resin-rich pine knots, which could be shaved and ignited with minimal effort. In Asia, fine bamboo fibers soaked in oil served a similar purpose. Across all regions, the common principle was clear. Combining a highly flammable medium with an airy fibrous structure maximized the tinder's responsiveness to sparks or friction-generated heat. The use of oil-rich tinder, honestly, transformed fire-starting techniques for ancient and medieval societies. Once prepared, the tinder could be stored safely and carried easily, ensuring that fire was always available. Soldiers, hunters and travellers would often keep small packets of this material in pouches, inside wooden containers, or wrapped in animal hide. Even in wet weather, Removing a packet and exposing it to a single spark was enough to create a flame. This really reduced the time and effort required to build fires and increase safety during night operations or in inclement conditions. Field manuals and historic accounts show that fire-making became faster and more efficient. For instance, Viking raiders and medieval soldiers could light cooking fires or torch signals within seconds, even in rainy weather. Hunters in forested or mountainous regions relied on oil-rich tinder to cook meals or boil water without wasting valuable energy in prolonged fire-starting attempts. Modern survivalists can actually replicate ancient oil-rich tinder using accessible materials and techniques. To recreate this method today, start with fine, fibrous tinder such as cotton, dry moss, cattail fluff, or fine wood shavings. Saturate the fibers lightly with a combustible oil such as pine resin, linseed oil, or even rendered animal fat. Just remember, avoid soaking the material completely. Oversaturation reduces oxygen flow and prevents ignition. Once mixed, allow the fibers to dry slightly in a well-ventilated space so that they remain porous but flammable. Store small portions in waterproof containers, waxed paper, or tightly sealed tins to preserve usability. In practice, simply remove a small pinch of the prepared tinder, expose it to a spark from flint or ferrocerium rod, and it will ignite almost instantly. Use the flame to light larger kindling or firewood. For survival applications, having multiple small packets ensures redundancy. 1 or 2 failures won't leave you without a heat source. This technique is especially valuable in damp or windy environments, where conventional tinder is unreliable. The ancient oil-rich tinder remains a model of efficient survival engineering. It really demonstrates that some of the most effective tools in human history rely on understanding materials and physics rather than modern technology. By combining simple fibers with oil, ancient societies created a reliable, portable, and life-saving method of starting fires. Its principles remain relevant today for anyone interested in wilderness survival, historical engineering, or practical fire-starting techniques. If you want more historically grounded survival methods, insights from forgotten technologies, and practical tools that still work in the modern world, subscribe to Backyard Wisdom, share this video with fellow enthusiasts, and help preserve these essential lessons for future generations.